All right, part two, we're gonna talk about how to set your range of motion with the breath and then how to breathe while you're training. Now, most of the time, and this is how I thought about things for forever, is there's a specific anatomical expression of, well, this is the joint, and the joint should be able to move and go here. And so we see pictures in textbooks that say you should have 70 degrees of shoulder extension and 90 degrees of shoulder flexion. And we just think, oh, a good exercise means I go all the way through that. That's true if you have access to that. But once we start to put load on, we realize how poorly we actually connect to our muscles. So for example, a pec, if I think about I can hold and engage pec tension, but can I do that through a full range of motion? So the full press is to go up and forward. So can I hold on to this pec as I press up and forward? Well, eventually you realize, well, that's all I got. The way we can test that is by using the inhale on the concentric portion. And that gives us a set of how long, not how far can my muscle physically move if I completely shut off, because if you knock me out or put me under sedation, you can move my body in all different types of places. But when you're actually connected to your muscle, can I create tension and hold this muscle contraction through a range of motion? Generally, people don't have that. When we think about the bigger muscles, the pecs, the lats, the obliques, the glutes, the VMOs, the calves, these large muscles that do the movement, those we tend to have a poor connection to because our society, our movement just doesn't involve that. And so what we have is pain in the stabilized muscles around that. And so the way to fix the pain and stabilized muscles around that is to get the large muscles engaged. Now, the way we do that is by getting them stronger. The way we do that is being in the gym and exploring. But first we have to see, what can I actually do? What can I actually engage? And so there's things we can start to test and feel the body moving, feel our engagement. So we started by getting our breath turned on. That lets us create a full connection of our diaphragm, our pelvic floor, our throat, our full connection of this upper torso we have with the breathing. So everything flows with the breath. Now we're gonna use the inhale to set a range of motion. So for the pecs, for example, if I wanted to say on a pec fly, I could go all the way across. Theoretically, I could take the pec and go all the way across here because it's supposed to adduct. But I might not have control of that all the way through. So if I want to do something like a chest fly, the way I would test this is I have a certain set of weight, and I'm going to get set, and I go, notice how the breath stopped. All right, so if you notice, if I try to inhale further, that's not there. Now, if I drop the weight from 30 to 10, now notice the difference. It was not the muscle. The muscle didn't have strength in that range of motion. So go back to 30, which means that I can create tension if I have no weight. So you notice the breath sets what I am physically capable of with the strength and connection of my body. That works for every exercise. So if I'm squatting, if I put weight on, which I'll show you in a minute, we'll do the lower body. If I put weight on that, you start to run into problems. So for example, if we come over and see something like a lat pull down, I could get here, I get set, I could try to go further, but what am I doing? I'm shifting the weight. So what I would end up doing is pulling the weight up into my traps as opposed to keeping it in my lats. So if I want to get all the way down here, and I could disconnect, so I could hold my breath and create tension. But the problem is when I disconnect from my breath, I disconnect from the movement, I disconnect from me. And that's the exact opposite of what we're trying to do. I'm trying to get muscles turned on. We're so used to, as a society and as a people, shutting off our brain, shutting off our body, and disconnecting. I just got to get through work and I just have to grind things. But when we do that, we start grinding our bodies down, and that's when things hurt. So the point of this is to reconnect to your body, to feel your muscles again. Because the more you can feel your muscles and engage with them, the stronger you get, the bigger your muscles get, the better you move, and the healthier you are. So the breath sets our range of motion. Now, with that, with every motion you're going to do, it is always limited by what your inhale can hold. So you set a weight, you inhale, the same breathing as we had over there. Inhale, notice the relaxed lips. As you practice it, it'll become second nature, but we think, now notice, the temptation is to hold your breath. And what you don't realize is you're going to do that. It'll be like second nature. You're going to kind of do that automatically because you've trained yourself to do that. So part of this is learning to breathe while we move. Now, the inhale exhale is fine. The inhale sets the range of motion. The exhale lets us relax, but work a little bit more. So at first, you're going to start every exercise thinking, inhale, until you get a few of those. Then when you're ready, when you start to feel the muscle engage, you're going to switch to inhale, longer exhale. So and what you notice is the longer exhale puts the muscle in a different oxygenated state and also forces a harder contraction. So that's going to get to this burn. And once we get to the burn, that's when we start counting reps, so to speak. But that's where once you feel the muscle turn on and pumped and burn, that's when the reps matter, because everything before that was just turning things on. So that's when you're going to start to focus on 3 to 5 reps of the exhale. It's like, so once I get to the point I got a decent muscle burn and I'm going here, now I'm inhale. And if you are in a space where you feel comfortable doing this, the next step and the best way to get the most out of a training session, especially in the last few sets, is to start to let some more a grunt come out. That sets you in the state and it keeps you engaged, gets you more engagement of a sympathetic fight state. So it sounds a little silly, and I know people are nervous to do that in public, but it's part of expressing that, expressing the energy. And so I practice that. There's a whole video, and I'm really using that and getting the throat to release sound and creating that. But that is how you're going to set the range of motion and breathe throughout. So I'll show another example on the lat pull down. You come over, and you'll notice it's all set on the weight. Doing lighter weight, for example, like I could go here and do 30 pounds and go and set up. It's not all the way down, but it's better than it was the first time. But more range of motion doesn't necessarily mean it's better, because it's all relative to the load. So for example, if I sat here and just did this short range of motion on lightweight, I can do that and that's fine. But you notice that's like physical therapy, and that's okay, because sometimes if I'm in pain, all I can do is focus on this. But once you get the larger muscles turned on and engaged, you notice that there's a whole level of expression. So if I'm gonna go heavier, let's just say I wanna bump this up to, I don't know, 100 pounds, I still set the same thing. Every single exercise you do, every single set is a new expression, a new set with the muscle. And even if you did a certain weight and a certain range of motion last week, you have different emotional and mental experiences that happen in between that may set you in a different place where your body's not as available. So keep that in mind. It's not a constantly linear progression. One more note on this. You want to have a mental map of what the exercise is. So if you're not sure what it is, you kind of feel and say, let's start with a very light weight. And you say, okay, what am I trying to hit here? Okay, this is a lat pull down. I'm trying to get this lat. So I'm going to isolate and engage it. So that's where you watch from these pieces. Pull the shoulders down, tight grip, inhale. And I'm just going through the paces. For example, I'm not trying to feel, like I'm not trying to pretend like this is 100 pounds, but I'm just feeling what is a natural path of gravity in this motion? Like, can I engage? Where do I want to pull? And so you start with a lighter weight, you feel this. You're starting to excite and build up in strength, but you're engaging as you pull down. Then as you go and you get set in these positions, and again, these are things that you're not going to figure this out the first time you do it, because this is a practice. It takes time to learn how to use these tools and have the skills to use them well. But you get here, you get set, you use the first few reps to set your range of motion. And then you notice that's where I'm working. And is that a problem? No, that's where I am today. So you inhale and exhale through that. And as you start to set that, then you can start to work on inhale and then exhale for longer reps to start to get into the set. And then as you start to fatigue, that's when you can start to work on some of these grunting, harder engaged reps. But what you want to focus on is, it's not about the ego. It's not about, I got the weight down on my chest and back up. No one cares. You're not getting any award for getting the reps in. What matters is, do you feel the muscles working? So the only thing that matters is when you get in this exercise and you're inhaling, is do you feel the muscles working? If you get in this halfway and you realize, I'm thinking about taxes. I'm thinking about, whatever I have to do. I got to eat. What am I going to eat later? I just got 10 more reps. 10, 8. Guess what? You're not focusing on the muscle. And that defeats the point. The point is that you feel the muscle, feel the body working. You have to actively be in the motion. That's a meditative aspect of this. So understand whether it's a pec fly, whether it's a pull, whether it's a squat, whether it's a hip hinge, it's a deadlift, you're picking up a sandbag, doing a lunge. You need to feel, what am I trying to work on here? If I'm doing a lunge, and can I feel it? And so sometimes what works really well for me is that you can use your fingers to palpate. So if I'm trying to do a pec fly, for example, and let's just say you start with a lighter weight, I want to feel this, I can take one hand and start to think, I want this muscle to work. So I'm going to use it and get to proprioceptive feedback. And see, I can hold that and I can use this to engage and get my brain to turn it on. So there's all kinds of tricks and tips you can do to turn your body on. But the point is that you're feeling things work. So now I'll give you an example of a squat and then we'll move on and get to the actual work of the program. And so this works with all of the exercises. You might notice that certain places are a little bit harder to feel the breath, limited to others, because let's say your calves aren't connected to your diaphragm, but you will still notice the tension, the holding of your body. So with something like a squat, I can inhale, and you start to notice that, okay, maybe your knees aren't feeling that great today, and you start to work in that. But the point is you have an awareness of what you're trying to do. You hold load, you use the inhale to set your range of motion. And so from there, you get your marching order for the day and you work in that, and so you build up. But the point is that you stay engaged with your body and you use your breath to control your range of motion and to set your movement. And when you lose the breath, take a second, put the weight down, reset around that. Because when you can move in meditation, when you can move and feel everything working together, that means you're integrated with the pieces and you can feel the process. Because anytime you get disconnected from your body, you've missed the point. So you want to reset and restart. That's the hardest part of the whole thing, but when you can do that well, you can set yourself up for success and have much better results. Great job.